Thank you for tuning in to the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte. This is Marriage Matters, and I'm your host, the Marriage Coach. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. for tips and advice on all matters of marriage. Be sure to like us on Facebook by searching for Marriage Matters /WGIV so that you can stay abreast of topics, ask questions, or comment during our interactive segment of Marriage Matters. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.itttakes2marriagecoaching.com for more information on our services. Our show sponsor for today's show is Shoe Flies. Shoe Flies is a shoe accessory that makes tying your shoes a quick and easy process. But did you know that thousands of families will not be able to afford shoes for their students this year? The purchase of new shoes is one of the single most expensive back-to-school items. Shoe Flies is partnering with It Takes Two Marriage Coaching, IMAC Design and Stone Fabrication, and the law offices of Victor and H. Wyatt in a back-to-school drive to make a difference for low-income families, homeless families, and foster youth. We believe that every child should feel confident and ready for the new school year, which is why we want to place your lightly used or brand new shoes in the hands of a child who needs them. Find out how you can help by visiting their website at shoeflies.com. That's www.shoefliez.com. Not tying your shoes will never look so good. So stay so tight and be so easy. Today we're going to do a special show. This show is going to be about the views, opinions, and the thoughts of wives. We're going to have a roundtable discussion with three wives that we've got here in the studio, and we're going to be talking about everything from love to parenting to sex to romance. We have three wives in the studio with us today, and each one represents a different phase of marriage. We have Ann, who's been married for 28 years. Ann, you in the house with me?
I'm here.
We've got Nikki, who's been married for 2 years. Nikki, you here with me?
I'm here.
And we've got Delisha, who's been married for 6 years. Delisha, you in the house with me?
I'm in the house.
All right, when we come back, we're going to start picking the brains of these wives. You're listening to Marriage Matters, and I'm your host, the Marriage Coach. You're tuned in to WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte.
Get ready, Charlotte, for the first annual Step Into the Queen City Detroit Ballroom and Chicago Steppin' event, September 25th through the 27th, 2015, hosted by Kim Pickett of Step This Way Urban Ballroom and Vanessa Jenkins of the Queen City Steppers. Guest instructor Drury Alexander, Detroit, Michigan. For private lessons, call 704-401-8890. DJ Art of Noise out of Virginia Beach, Virginia will be on the ones and twos. All events held at Lynn's Dance Club, 4819 South Tryon Street. Go to paypal.com, the Queen City Steppers, for tickets. For hotel rooms, call 704-525-5005. Ask for group code Queen City. Queen City.
Welcome back to WDRB Media and WGIV, the soul of Charlotte, and those streaming through our live free TuneIn radio app. You're listening to Marriage Matters, and I'm your host, Patrice Bush, the Marriage Coach. If you're just tuning in, we're in the studio with three beautiful women today. All of them are wives, some of them are mothers, some of them are business owners, others are career women. We're going to be having conversations about all things marriage. Make sure you tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 for tips and advice on all matters of marriage. Be sure to like us on Facebook by searching for Marriage Matters /WGIV so that you can stay abreast of topics, ask questions, or comments during our interactive segment of Marriage Matters. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.itttakes2marriagecoaching.com for more information on our services. So, wives, I'm so glad that you all are in the studio with me today. We are going to be talking about all things marriage today, and I'm just going to be picking your brains and kind of figuring out, why did you get married? How are you making your marriage work? What some of the challenges you're facing, and just kind of giving advice to other women and other wives out there who are married and trying to make this thing work, trying to do the balancing act of being, some of us being moms, some of us, of course, all of us being wives, but some of us being moms on top of that, business owners, career women, grandparents. So we're going to kind of get into all of those things today. So they say that a good man is hard to find. And a husband material is even more difficult to come across than just finding a good man. But obviously, we're all married, so that means all of you all found your Boaz. So you all found your marriage material. You all found your husband, the person that you are willing to spend the rest of your life with. So women ask me all the time, like, Patrice, where do you think is the best place to find a husband? My answer is always in the place where he finds you. In my opinion, there is no right or wrong to a place to meet someone that you identify as good husband material. There are good men in the church, just like there are good men on your job, just like there are good men in lounges and clubs, just like there are good men in the library, in your grocery store, in your coffee shops. They're everywhere. So there's no definitive place, to where we find husbands at. But on that question, what I want to know is, ladies, where did you meet your husbands?
I met my husband at Sam's Club.
Wow, okay. Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we were both working there in 98, and at the time, very young. I was 19, he was 20. Neither one of us thought that we would be together.
Okay.
Like, I thought he was cute, and I wanted to talk to him, but he shut me down real early in the situation.
Okay.
So we
shut you down like I'm not interested in being your friend, or I'm not interested in being your man.
He was like, we can be friends. Okay. You're not my type, but you cool, so we can hang out.
Okay.
So that's what we did from 98 to 2012.
Hung out.
We were friends, and we hung out.
I love it. Anybody else want to chime in where you met your husband?
I met my husband at school. I went to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro. I was what they call the alternate cheerleader, which really don't mean anything. You just practice with the real people. And when that realization hit me, I said, c'est la vie. And I was walking back to my dorm, and there was this group of guys that were just standing. I guess they were girl watching. And I got this thing about hairy legs, and never been bashful in my life. And Jay had shorts on, and I just, they were staring, and I'm like, okay, gonna stare at me. I just reached up, grabbed the hair on his legs, and that's how we met. And wow, it's been a friendship ever since. I mean, we were friends forever. From that point on, he said, well, I have a date tomorrow night, but would you like to go to the movies the next night? I'm like, sure, no big deal, because I'm just looking for a friendship. I was a freshman, and we became friends. We started doing everything together, and I didn't feel pressured to be a girlfriend. I was a PE major. I had to pick of the litter, the football players, the basketball players, the track team. But there was just something special about Jay. There was a friendship. There was a bond that we built, and it just grew. And it continues to grow. It's been 28 years now, and this continues to grow.
That's wonderful. So, I mean, it sounds like we got a variety of places. So you got the grocery store or Sam's Club. You got college. We got all these different locations where we met our husbands. So you met them. You started this friendship. It sounds like was sort of the basis of everybody's marriage. Mm-hmm. So my next question is, how did you know that this person was the one? So how did you go from he's my friend to wait a minute, he could be my boo, to I like him even beyond a boo, he could be my husband, he could be my forever partner? So Delisha, I'm going to start with you. I know you've been married for 6 years. Tell me, how did you decide that your husband was going to be the one, or that you knew that he was the one you wanted to spend your life with?
Well, I met my husband 9 years ago, and I met him at a sports bar. So you're right, you can meet him anywhere. But my husband was very persistent in dating me. And he worked several jobs, but he would say, I want to date you. And I said, you don't have time to date me. You're too busy. He was working 3 jobs. And so, but he wouldn't leave. He continued to come around. He was just very, very persistent. And when I saw how persistent he was, I knew that there was something special about me, that he felt like this is the woman that I want in my life. And I think really the kicker for me was I'm addicted to fountain cokes and have been for years. And I had a craving at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I said, hey, boo, I need a fountain coke. And he was like, looking at me kind of crazy, and I said, I have to have a fountain coke and some lemon heads. And he got up out his bed, and he went and bought me a fountain coke and some lemon heads. Wow. And I said, oh, you are definitely a keeper. so
that's what sealed the deal, fountain coke and lemon heads?
He has been, his persistence really.
That's what put the stamp on it.
Right. but that really put the stamp on it. And to this day, my husband would do anything in the world for me. So
I love it.
That's sweet.
Anybody else want to chime in on how you made that transition from he's my boyfriend to I want him to be my husband?
I can say that I guess from the start, Jay knew there was something more there, because after 2 encounters, he wanted me to meet his grandmother. His mother's deceased. He wanted me to meet his grandmother. 2 weeks later, I met the whole family, the aunts, the cousins, everybody. And I'm like, okay, this is a bit much for me, but, I love to talk, so it was no big deal. And they wanted us married before we knew it, or before I knew it. And it was like one of those things where he and his dad were talking and his grandmother were talking, but they didn't share that conversation with me. We just went on about our thing. I knew he was the one, because my mother used to always say, what you go to sleep with on your mind, you pray about it, you go to sleep. If you wake up and that's the first thing on your mind, that's it. The decision has been made. It's out of your hands. It was out of my hands.
Okay. I like that. So family was definitely involved in. Let me just throw in, Ann, you've been married for 28 years, correct?
Yes.
That's good. And we're going to kind of talk a little bit later about, fitting in family and spirituality into our marriage. So I'm glad you kind of touched on that, Ann. Miss Nikki, who's been married for 2 years, did you want to chime in at all on, how you determined that you were going from boyfriend status with him to the next level?
Well, it moved so fast. Honestly, he knew. We were friends, and he just told me, we went to visit my family in Savannah, and he said, I'm going to marry you by the end of the year. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I just came out of a relationship, didn't want to be in another relationship. So I was like, whatever. And it just, like, the first couple of weeks was slow, and then after that, it was like we were engaged, and 11 months later, we were married.
Wow.
So
that was quick.
Yeah, it moved very fast.
Well, but it sounds like y'all both knew what you wanted, and you didn't waste any time going after it.
Yeah, we both knew what we would and would not deal with. He had been married before, so he had been through his trials. I had been in a relationship for 12 to 13 years. I had been through my trials. When I broke up with my ex, it felt like a divorce. Mm-hmm. So both of us knew what we were willing to deal with, what we weren't willing to deal with, and we worked.
To make it work.
Yeah.
So speaking of work, being a wife can be extremely challenging in 2015, but of course also very rewarding. But for many reasons it can be challenging. I know for me, I think the most difficult part of being a wife is my time. I've got 3 children. I work in the school system. I'm a marriage coach, and now I'm the host of Marriage Matters. So my hands are kind of all over the place, and so I feel like I spend every day sort of trying to stretch 24 hours into like 36 hours in a day, because I feel like I'm spending so much energy just trying to make sure I play every role in my life, and I play it to the max. I play it to 100%. So I know for me, sometimes I struggle with just making sure that I give each role in my life adequate time, that I give adequate time to being a mom, adequate time to being a career woman, and adequate time to being a husband, still of course being a sister, being a daughter. There's so many other roles that we play. So just kind of thinking about the roles that you all play as women, and I'm sure you all are sort of in the same predicament I'm in. What would you say is the most challenging part of being married?
For me, is
yes, Miss Nikki.
It's work, and he has 3 children, so I have no idea how to be a mom. Never been a mom. His kids are 7, 12, and 16. And trying to give up my time to fit in for other people is my challenge, because I'm accustomed to it just being me. Even in my past relationship, it was just me and him. So we had our time, and then we had, our time alone. So just trying to make that work with my job, because I love my job. I'm a flight attendant and I'm gone all the time. Mm-hmm. So when I come home, I want to wind down and have some me time, and then I want to have husband time. And his son was with us for a week, which is the longest we've had him. And he's 16, so he has his own personality and things, and it was just tough for me because I didn't know what to do with him. First of all, I'm trying to figure out, what do you do with a 16-year-old? I don't want to bore him and drag him around and treat him like he's 10 because he's 16. But he's such a peaceful child. It just worked. He fits in perfect with me and his dad. He wants his own time, and then when he wants to do something, he'll let you know. And most of the time, he don't want to be bothered. So,
yeah. So you're playing the role of step-parent mm-hmm. and sharing those co-parenting pieces with your husband?
Kinda. I don't really co-parent because their mom's very active, and dad has his say, and if he chooses to discuss things with me, then we discuss them, and it goes from there.
Gotcha.
I haven't worked my way into co-parenting, and I'm not forced to because of the parents. They welcome me, and every now and then they'll say, well, what do you think? Mm-hmm. But as far as, none of them live with us full time. So, there's nothing for me to be like, oh, well, you're not going to do this and you're not going to do that. I don't have to discipline them. I do talk to them about school and stuff like that, but as far as parenting, their parents have that under control.
That's good stuff. Okay. All right. Any other challenges, or I'm just curious. I really would like to hear from everyone, though, because I think sometimes people assume that once the marriage occurs that now we live in happily ever after, and it's just blissful and nothing ever goes wrong, and there's no challenges, and everybody just happy, and it's like a movie, a fairy tale, and it's nothing like that in real life,
not
of
Beaver
course.
to Cleaver.
What do you mean?
So,
that's exactly how it is.
Don't we all wish that it was like that?
Well, go ahead.
So I would have to say, for me, I think the biggest challenge was blending the families. And when I met my husband, I had a son, and I was a single mother for 10 years, so it was me and him. And, his dad wasn't really involved in his life, so for me it was, this is my son. He's mine. I make all decisions about him. He's a non-negotiable. He's mine. And I guess about a year after we had been dating, my husband's son, who's a year younger than my son, actually came to move with us. And so when he came into the picture, then you have two kids who you have to learn to parent, and you parent differently. First, my husband and I parent very differently, for one, but then two, you can't parent all children the same way. Mm-hmm. So you have one child who may need a little bit more attention, or a little bit more discipline, or a little bit more love, and then you have another child who may not need as much. And so I think that was really difficult mm-hmm. for us, and remained difficult until, really, it's still difficult. So my stepson has now moved out, but then my son is still in the home. He's grown, but even still being grown, he's under our household, so there's still rules. And so where my husband and I may disagree about some things, there's still this, this kind of conflict about how do you, discipline. And when the boys were younger, it was a lot of, between the boys, felt like someone's playing favoritism. Why can't he do this? Why can't I do this? He gets to do that. And, so that was really difficult. And I think, but even more so for me, it was just hard for me to let go and allow someone else to help me with my son, because I was used to being a single parent. That's, I was used to being a single parent, so he's mine.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn, and I'm still learning. And so it doesn't happen overnight. I've been married 6 years, but still, he's 21. But even when I think about it, I think he's my child.
Yeah.
He's my son. So it's always, you're still learning. It's always something that you can work on. And I just think it's been the most difficult part for us.
Well, you say that because it's like his, mine, ours, blending it together. Well, I have 2 children. Well, we have 2 children, and that's the one thing that I have to constantly focus on, and I have to remind him, they're not your children, they're our children. And then when I'll start talking my children, and Jay's like, you had them by yourself, kind of thing. So, we try to take ownership, and we used to parent a little differently. And I think I was telling you a little bit earlier, my husband was laid off from work in 2007, and that was hard. As a wife, one thing that I did, I took him aside and took him out for coffee and said, babe, we're not going to die. I'm like, you're not going to drop dead on me because you're not working. And we decided what we were going to do and how we were going to do it, and we had a game plan and how we were going to talk to the children. I had one plan. He had another plan, and then we had to come together with the plan. And with that still worked a little bit. But when he got to the point where he was picking up the kids from school, he was taking them to dance, he was taking them to basketball practice, and taking them to theater, I guess that was the big moment when my son spit at somebody. And, I handled it one way. I never saw my husband move from the 5th bleacher to the floor. And my son didn't walk to the bathroom. His toes brushed the floor. And I wanted to get up and don't you do that to my child. But I had to take a deep breath and say, that's his child also. And he has to be a man, and he has to learn men and boys do things the right way. Yeah. And learning to trust that the person you married is going to take care of the child. Yep. Whether you give birth to it or you marry them, you feed them long enough, they're yours. They're yours.
And I think that's an excellent connection that you made. And to Delicia's situation, because Delicia, you're referring to blended families. So having biologically, different children, but you all are both parenting them, and you're saying the same struggle, identifying that same situation, even with biological children by both parents, because we're just everybody's different, and everybody's got their own opinion and thoughts of how they want things to be done, which is one reason why we do encourage couples to. A lot of people think it's cliche and it's kind of silly and goofy almost to talk about things that have not occurred yet. And people don't, before people have children, we don't need to talk about having kids because it ain't happened. I mean, we ain't parents. What's the point of having the conversation? But this is the reason that you want to have those conversations, because you got to be prepared for when it does happen. Yeah. And then, of course, you're going to continue to talk even through that. You're not going to be 100% prepared, but at least you've got some ideas on the table, and you kind of know, who thinks it's okay to leave a kid home at this age, or, what do you think about giving a kid allowance or not giving a kid allowance. There's all kinds of conversations to have. So I think that was like an excellent connection on how we all, as married folks, we all kind of share that same struggle. So we're going to try to get through our next 3 questions, like trying to do 3 minutes each question. Okay, ladies? All right. So we've all heard the phrase, there's an elephant in the room. And so, just kind of thinking about the elephant in the room is sort of that uncharted territory, or that one thing in your marriage that you and your husband just don't talk about. Or maybe you've had the conversation and you already kind of know that it's one of them conversations that is real sensitive. Somebody gonna get upset. Somebody might get their feelings hurt. It's just kind of an uneasy, uncomfortable conversation. And so just real quick, ladies, if you don't mind, if there is an elephant in your marriage, what would you say is the elephant in your marriage?
Coming off of the last question, kids.
Okay.
We don't have any children together, and I'm terrified to have children with him because of the way I see him parent his children. And I was raised completely different. I know why he is the way that he is, because I see him with his parents. And I was raised completely different. So I'm terrified of what we're going to do to our child. I feel like we're going to really damage our child with the back and forth. So we talk, but we do talk about it. We talk about it all the time because he's ready for children. And I'm ready, but I'm very hesitant because I'm scared. And I don't want his children to feel a certain type of way about our child living at home and them not living there.
Gotcha.
And I have multiple concerns with bringing a child into our marriage. And I mean, he's great because he's like, look, we can't have a kid based on what other people think or how other people feel. We got to do what's best for us. So soon, hopefully, but not too soon.
Maybe you'll join the mama vote.
Maybe.
Yay. Well, I'm going to piggyback on what you said. You can't bring other people into your household. My mom and my mother-in-law, they both were adamant about what goes on in your house, what goes on in your bedroom is between you and your husband. If you have to talk to somebody you don't know. Talk to somebody who don't speak your language, because they can get mad and be on your side, or they can be on his side. But if it's family not going to forget. You know, it's going to be like, he did that to you?
Yes.
And you forgave him. I'm not married to him. I ain't going to forgive him. Every time he walks in the room, it's going to be that problem. So it's talking it out, communication, if you I get real heated in my communication. So if I usually say, so what you said was, what I hear you saying is, and I have to repeat it. If you hear me say something like that, I'm hot. I'm ready to pop, because that gives me that countdown in my mind to, okay, we're talking, we're communicating, and we're not going to leave this situation angry.
Right.
Okay.
So is there any elephant in your marriage? Real quick, Ann.
Not really, not anymore. It used to be family members who wanted to tell us how to live our life, wanted to tell us how to raise our children. You're doing too much this way, not enough that way, too much. I'm like, my children go to church, my children are healthy, they're happy, they accept all people, all situations, able-bodied, handicapped, it didn't matter. I'm like, we're doing okay. We were doing something wrong. God would tap us on our shoulder and say, hold up.
You gotta know it.
Love it. So wait a minute. So I just got to say, from those of us who have not been married for 28 years, that's what we all looking to get to, where there is no elephant in the room. I'm guessing after 28 years, you guys have just talked about everything and probably had just a myriad of experiences.
We've talked about everything, but my husband is so easygoing, and we complement each other in so many different ways. And one of the things that my mother always said, she was a teacher for many years. She said, don't go to bed angry. She said, if you got to go to bed angry, don't go to bed. She said, you don't cross that stress hole with anger in your heart, on your mind, thinking about it. And communication was our big elephant in the room. I thought I told him something because I was going 50 miles a minute, and I didn't. And apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I said it. I apologize, and vice versa. Especially when he was laid off with the kids. It was like, oh, we thought you were going to get something to eat. We just went to Sonny's. Oh, next time we'll get you something. And that kind of thing.
Right. So that communication was the elephant. Delisha, do you have any elephant in your marriage?
I think the only what elephant is in our marriage right now is something that's more recent. And again, it's about children. It's about my child, who's 21, who is still at home, and he's very, very spoiled. And he was my only child, and he's the first grandchild. And so I know that my husband is getting kind of frustrated, and he needs to become a man and move on and do things. And there's things he wants to say to him and to teach him to do, but he holds back because for years I've just said he's off limits. And so again, that's something that I work on, and we will continue to work on. I know I need to give in on that. So I think at this point the elephant in the room is it's the conversation about my son.
Your son. That's good stuff. Well, ladies, look, we have had such an incredible time in here today that we're about out of time. So I'm definitely appreciative of the fact that you all came in for a roundtable discussion with me. I would love to do this again at a later date, and we're looking forward to definitely bringing in our husbands as well and doing a roundtable discussion with our husbands. Make sure you join us next week as we continue our discussions on all things marriage. Thank you for tuning in. Continue to tune in every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to connect with me by going to Facebook and searching for Marriage Matters /WGIV. Like our page to stay abreast topics, comment, and ask us questions. Did you enjoy today's show? If so, make sure you tell someone about it. Show us some love on our Facebook page or via email at marriagematterswgiv@gmail.com. Also, if you're interested in being a guest on our show or you want to advertise at a great low rate, give me a call at 704-449-6542. I'm your host, Patrice Bush, the Marriage Coach, and you've been listening to Marriage Matters on WDRB Media and WGIV, the Soul of Charlotte.